Welcome everybody, I'm Donna from Riverside Beads, and today we're going to do making bracelets in two different ways. So I want to show you on tiger tail or beading wire, and I want to show you on an elasticated bracelet. These are two really popular ways to make bracelets, and I'm going to use the materials from our Riverside bead box kit. Now this is a kit that we have as a monthly subscription that goes out to our members. Anybody can join here in the UK, and it's a monthly box that consists of different projects. So this project was a tassel project from this month, bracelets, necklaces and earrings as well, but today I'm just picking out the bracelet part of it just for the style, really, because it's the style of bracelet you do for this project really doesn't matter in terms of the techniques I'm going to show you would accommodate. I'm wearing a teal version today, so they would accommodate any beads that you wanted to do this on. So I'm going to particularly focus on the findings, but if you are interested in the beads that I'm using, it's an assortment of Preciosa seed beads in size 6s and 8s, an assortment of our gorgeous little metal spacer beads, a couple of crystals thrown in there as well. So it's this little stash you can hopefully just see on the side there. Yeah, you've got all those in shot, haven't you? So you know, these different little spacers and things. So as I say, any combination. We've just pulled this nice collection of colors together for you from Riverside Bead Box 9 this is. So I will show you how to do this. Now I'm going to start with the, I guess my go-to really, sometimes I'll make a real intricate necklace and think, oh, quickly need a matching bracelet to go with that. And here's what we end up with. So in your kit, you'll get elastic in a roll like this, and this is how we would sell it. But I'm going for my industrial roll here just for ease. I've got it sat here with me. So I'm just going to reel off. My first bit was like coiled. So I'm just going to pop that there. With me. Okay, now if you are working at home, you could just pop a little drop of sellotape on that. So a little bit of sellotape on the top there would secure that down, and that's quite a nice way to make sure that the beads don't fall off. But what I'm going to do today is add a little stopper bead as well. So if you haven't got sellotape to hand or you want it a bit more portable, this is an option. Pop a bead on, one that's not going to be part of your design, and thread back through. So I'm going back through in the same direction with the elastic, back through that same hole. Now it could be a little bit tight as this one is, so I'm just pulling that down to sort of take the stretch out of it a little, hopefully give me that room to thread that through. If not, I'll just revert to another bead, but that should, I've got it through now. So just pull that tight, just there, and it will stop the beads coming off. It's sort of, if you look at it, when I hang it upside down, it doesn't drop off, but if I pulled on it, it would slide off, which is ever so handy. Now, in terms of the design, I don't want to focus too much on that today, but I do need to thread a few of these on. So while I'm threading, I'll sort of talk to you a little bit about the beads I'm popping on, just in case you particularly like these beads. So any beads work. I love a good seed bead. They're great as spacers. They are for stringing with, you know, you can do full stranded seed bead pieces. And of course, they're also really popular for bead weaving as well. So the one that I'm using today, the first ones were size 6s, sorry, Preciosa. And then the next one I popped on this pattern. I haven't quite followed the exact pattern from our box, but that's the beauty of these, to create your own. The next one I've popped on is a tiny little spacer. It's sort of a tiny little round spacer wheel, but only as wide as a size 5 bead, size 6 bead. Sorry, I keep saying fives. Fives were size we used to have years ago, but they're very, you know, they're very similar in size. A 5 and a 6 are a sort of larger bead. And these 6s have a rather large hole in them. You know, for a small bead, I find that the seed beads have a nice large hole in them. So that makes them perfect for stringing onto various materials. Sometimes you can even fit them onto other types of thicker cord, cotton cords and thinner leathers and stuff as well, because the hole is surprisingly large. So these ones are your Preciosa size 6, followed by your little silver plated shiny silver spacer beads. So with all dress jewellery, just a bit of care information. You wouldn't want to spray perfume directly onto these. You wouldn't want to be washing up in them. They're silver plated ones. So if you were to keep scrubbing at them, it can cause issues for longevity of your materials there. So just keep them nice and fresh. I wear mine time and time again, and it keeps them nice and But the beauty of making your own jewellery is if anything goes wrong with it, you can always make some more and get it right to size. So I'm using the full length of my bead mat for my elastic, but if you were wanting to size it, you could kind of measure your wrist up and size it to get it right for the person that it's for. Remember, with bracelets, it's how people like to wear them. So I do tend to wear my bracelets quite, I suppose, tightish, not my elasticated ones. There's a bit of movement in them, but they're not totally tight, but I don't like them too baggy as well. So I do like them to sort of sit at the top bit of my wrist there as a general rule. And so if you have them too loose, I find they drop down your arm. So, but again, if that's comfortable for you and that's what you're looking for, that's absolutely fine as well. Now, the other beads that I've got on my mat today are size 8 Preciosa seed beads. Size 8s are another common seed bead size for beading, stringing, kamihimo, bead weaving, that sort of thing. So often with things, you'll get patterns that it will require you to use certain colour and certain size beads and things. But for something like a bracelet, that's the beauty of it, really. You've got that freedom to create this exactly as you wish. So I'm going to make this an incredibly small bracelet, I think, just so you don't have to sort of watch me stringing all these on. So I'm going to literally do one more, and then that'll give us a nice pattern to get a feel. So I could talk to you about the things you need to consider with bracelets. And this would apply whether it was on a cord, tiger tail, or elastic, as I've done today. So obviously elastic's stretchy, so it gives you that movement. That shows that rather well, the stretch in the elastic. So that's what you're going to need, because you're not going to have a clasp on this. You're going to need that to get over your wrist as well. So the key to this is taking it on and off your wrist. The fastening must be nice and secure. So I'm going to talk to you about that in a moment. So I've thought about the pattern here. This one's a repeating pattern. I've gone 3 beads and a spacer. So I've started with 3 beads. I've finished with a spacer. So when this comes round, not even quite a bracelet, but you get the idea of what I'm trying to create there. Your pattern would match up. So your little spacer, then you would have your seed beads. So if I show you something in practice, this one was a finished one with a size 8 and a size 5 alternatively, and each of these were done alternately till we got to the right size. So you just follow that pattern, and then when you tie your knot, and if you do what I'm going to suggest, it sort of is just seamless really in terms of the bracelet. Something like this one, perhaps you would start, or I would suggest starting from the center there. So I started with this bit in the middle of a piece of elastic. So it's still on the elastic, this one. Start in the center and work down either side, so that when you get to the bottom here, this one actually comes up a little bit small, but you could either carry on with your pattern, or you could sort of, when you get to the back bit, instead of this pattern of 5s, you could sort of say, right, I need it slightly smaller or slightly bigger, so I'll put 7 there or something. So if you do something that the feature is that bit there, as it is on this project, it's sort of to there is the different part, then you can follow through with your pattern down either side. So that's another way to do it. So rather than just sort of following a rolling pattern that will go around, you can do one that starts in the center and works out. Now that works rather well to a clasped piece. So if you're adding a clasp, you would then have the clasp that fell at the back of it, which is the next project I'm going to show you. So again, just a pattern design, but with a little charm hanging off of it. So think about your pattern is what I'm saying here. So think about whether you're starting in the middle and working out, whether it's a repeating pattern like I've got here, so that when you bring it round, that it joins up and your pattern follows on. And that applies on either stringing material. So just the key bits for the elasticated, and then we can have a look at the fastenings for the tiger tail piece. Because we've used this stopper bead, so if I just demonstrate and hope that's not going to fall off, that's the purpose of it. Now, if I push those, it would start to push that off. But as a general rule, it gives me a bit of movement, and that's our stopper, just to stop everything falling off. When I'm ready to take that off, what I do is I hold the elastic below it, because I do need to give it a bit of a pull, and I'm grabbing the bead, but not the elastic, and I'm pulling. So I don't know if you can see the resistance that I'm just up against there, but it's just a little bit, enough to slide that off. And that is now loose on both ends. So if I decided, and I'd got a more pattern-based one, something like that one where we're working either side, if that was my center, I could now add to either side if I wanted, carefully, and then we'd be ready to go. But this one, when it joins up, albeit tiny bracelet, you get the idea of what we're trying to achieve here. So when we're doing kits and things, and in our Riverside bead box, which these materials are from, all of our kits would have instructions how to finish whatever it is that we've got in them. So this one being elasticated, it shows you how to tie a double knot, a shoelace knot, I always describe them as. So it's right over left, left over right is one of the options. So just a standard knot there, pulling that closer, but it's actually that second knot that is the one that does that. So let me just see if I can zoom in a little just to get a better view. See how that's coming out. Okay, is that clear enough? If I haven't made it too blurry zooming in. Okay, so what you now do is you tie a double knot, so a second one on the top, right over left, left over right, tie that through. And it's this knot that makes the difference. So in this particular kit that we've done, I have put a really clear photo of a double knot there, but we're pulling that close, and it's this one then that we pull. Now, what I do here, that's nice and closed there, but it's going to slip undone if I let go of it. It's this next part that is the key. So you hold onto the elastic rather quite close to the beads there and quite close to the knot, and you pull it. And what that pulling does is it sort of takes that stretch out of that knot. So we want to pull it until it's sort of quite tight, and then we don't want it to slip undone. So hopefully that has done it, so that when I've let go of that now, that hasn't slipped undone. But it would be getting it nice and close. You always feel like you're going to snap the elastic, but it's incredibly rare that actually happens. So that is now nice and secure in there. But the magic ingredient is either some of your jewellery glue if you have it, but don't stress if you haven't. Some good old clear nail varnish will do the job perfectly fine. So a little drop of nail varnish. Now super glues tend to erode the elastic, but the nail varnish will just sort of glue it for us without doing that. So what I've done, I've pulled those beads away, so I've exposed the knot, which will allow me just to pop the clear nail varnish on the knot, which will hopefully allow it to dry enough. And then I would, oh, that's just slipped undone actually when I fiddled with that. So we can just pull it back, but I would go back again with the nail varnish. So in, leave that, and then go back in again with that nail varnish, just in case it's not kept it on that knot for us. So I'm just holding on to the tails a little bit this time, just to make sure it behaves. Okay, and that I would then leave. So when I teach this, or we make a bracelet in class, or I do a kids party or something, it's always a really frustrating process, because you've made this beautiful bracelet that you desperately want to put on, but that really must dry. So I would leave that to dry, and then I would let me show you an example of one on here. So this one, like I said, is seamless. So although I've got a knot in there, what I've done is I've done the knot near one of my largest hold beads. So on this occasion, it's the size 6s. It should be hiding somewhere, so I shouldn't really be able to find it. But what will have happened is it will have gone, and I will have tucked it inside one of those beads. So I will have slid one of those beads over that knot, and that will secure that nicely in there, so it keeps that, so it's well hidden from you, hopefully, and it just makes a bit more of a seamless bracelet. So these are all little tips that hopefully give you a more professional finish to your bracelet. So even though it's just I'll say it's my absolute go-to elasticated bracelet, you know, it can make a more professional finish by following some of those tips. So if you feel the need to give it a second coat of nail varnish, feel free to, but I find as well adding it inside the bead, and if you can just do it while it's still wet, so I would probably try and pop that in just like so, squeezing the bead, you're sort of trying to squeeze it over the knot like so. And that's gonna take that today, but if not, I would have to wait till that dried a bit and then hopefully pop it inside the bead, just to try and make it a little bit more seamless. But the reef knot anyway does sort of hide itself quite nicely. But if you've got a larger whole bead or a bail or something that you're hanging on, maybe position your knot around that area. So that would be an elasticated bracelet. And then I wanted to talk to you about the same process, but in a I'm going to see if I can unpull that open. The funny thing is, sometimes you can't even get them open even when you want to. I'm just going to see if I could unravel it. Not very well. Let's see if I could steal the beads off it in that order, which might save me stringing them on. I'll show you what I mean. This is something I often do if I'm if we cut that off and see what we can do. Yeah, if I've made a mistake in it, other than wasting your stringing material, it's really nice not to have to waste your pattern perhaps that you've been sitting there stringing on. So let me show you the next part. Now this is tiger tail. So a flexible beading wire is how I would describe tiger tail. This is a basic 7-strand, a dull silver. And that goes with most things, really. I find that the greys and silvers are really nice colours to go in with your jewellery making. They just blend. So this is the silver tiger tail that we have at Riverside Beads here. Again, I would do a length that would be a length of a bead mat or something, but yeah, you can measure it up to size. Now just be careful with tiger tail because it is wire inside. It's 7 strands of wire spun and nylon coated. If I was to just let go of that without using the handy little slots that they put in the case there, it would unravel on itself. So it's just a bit frustrating. You have to wind it back on, but that is good to go. Now I noticed there was a kink there, so I'm going to chop that little kink off. I don't want that. That gives me a smooth end, and I've got a smooth end this other side as well. I'm just going to lose a little bit off there so it fits on the board to show you. So I'm going to, so if this was a pattern such as that one, like I was saying, where we have that center feature piece, you would start that here at the middle. If not, you would just, you could add your clasp on one end and then string them all up to that. That is an option, but you need to either have a repeat pattern there, or you would do the same, start and work, depending what the design is. So I'm going to start by adding I'm going to add one fastening on this end in one style, and then I want to show you a wire garden fastening on the other end for you. So you've got a couple of techniques. So the first one will be a crimp culotte fastening and then adding a clasp on, and the other side I'm going to introduce some wire guardians for you, because it's always nice to see those in use. They're one of those things we sell lots of, but not everybody knows how to use them. So I really need to introduce those to some of our kits just so you can have a go with those. Now, so I'm going to pop here. I want to just bring this in to you, which is a culotte fastening. Culottes are little clamshells with a hole in the center there, and this goes through that center bit there. So if you see, I'm holding that with my flat nose pliers. I've gone through the center of the clamshell or culotte, and I will just let that drop out the way now. For this one, we would just add a crimp bead. So crimp beads are little metal beads that can be quite useful spacers if you've run out of little silver spacers. And you pop that on there, and then you flatten it with flat nose pliers. Now we do crimp pliers. I've never quite been a fan, so I do tend to stick to flat nose pliers. What that does is it crushes it, and I appreciate it's not very aesthetically pleasing. It takes itself off to one side of the tiger tail. You can work on getting that more in the center. I didn't bother because this is going to go over that. So now what I need to do is take that culotte, bring it up over the crimp. And that crimp bead, I want that flat squashed crimp bead to sit inside that dome, inside that bowl of the culotte. So I'm going to start with trying to squash this with my fingers, really, just for a little bit of accuracy. So I know it's a bit tricky for you to see, but I can then judge getting it in that middle, hopefully. If you don't judge that right, what can happen is it gets stuck in the joint there. As you squash it over, it expands the metal too much because you've got another piece of metal it's folding over, and it actually can crush that and snap it off. So you just waste a culotte that way, and you sort of learn from the mistake as such. So just this final bit, I'm not crushing this culotte, but I'm just making sure that I close it with the flat nose pliers. So just gently manipulating that. Sometimes you have to go side to side. This has actually gone quite well first time, so I've not got to worry too much on that. But if I did, I would just give it a squash gently from either side just to make that fit to size. Then I am going to pop my fastening on. So that would happen either end if you were going with this type of fastening. So crimp, culotte fastening with a crimp inside of it is one way. So I actually end up with 3 different styles of ways to fasten here. And then I've got my jump ring, 2 pairs of flat nose pliers, one of them being a wider one of them a chain nose one, and opening it, bringing one forward. So the movement is one forward, one back, but very slightly. So you're just opening that, hooking that through, like so. And then one end, I'll just have the jump ring. Okay, but what I would do is, yeah, probably just put a fastening on here. So either just a standard Lobster Clasp fastening. So if you just have a look at those, I've just grabbed two different sizes out. I think it's a 12mm and a 14mm. Lobster Clasps come in lots of sizes. So I think we do 10, 12, 14, and then up 16, 18, 20, etc. So 12 tends to be a good all-round size if you don't know. So if you're not sure, you just want an average size, go for a 12mm. You started getting preferences or want bigger for someone who has, struggles with a dexterity or something, that's an option. I've also grabbed a toggle clasp. So one side goes the toggle and the other side of the necklace or bracelet would go the bar. So that's an option, but these process would be the same. You see that I've still got the open of the jump ring. I've got two pairs of the flat nose pliers and I'm going to flick that closed again. So that's one side of whatever clasp of choice. So we stock hundreds of clasps here at Riverside. So we do toggles in 50 different shapes, let alone all the different colours we do. We do magnetic clasps, like I say, we do all the ones of lobster clasps, screw barrel clasps and all sorts. So do check out riversidebeads.co.uk for our range, or pop and see us here in Market Deep in Peterborough. We're in the UK, so for anyone that's watching it back internationally, it's a little bit further, but hopefully you can pick up some top tips today, if not. So what I'm going to do, if this works, if not, I'll just sit and string them. I'm going to take those beads in that pattern off of, oh, it's not fitting through the silver one, that's annoying. Oh, got it, yeah. So I'm stealing these off of this elastic. It's totally cheating, but if not, you just restring them. It's not the end of the world. If I wasn't on a time constraint for the demo, that would be an option. So I'm just popping that pattern that I've already created, but thought, oh, no, I don't want it on elasticated. I'm going to do it on tiger tail. So I'm just popping that and transferring it onto there. But ultimately, don't panic too much about what I'm doing. You would just go to your mat and you would pick up your beads of choice exactly like that. And tiger tail is almost a little bit easier to string onto. The tiger tail, it's solid, so it's wire, ultimately covered in 7 strands of wire, typically is the tiger tail we stock, and it's coated in a nylon, so it's flexible, strong. Doesn't kink like wire. So for anyone that's uses wire to turn, or like a head pin or something, it's not that type of wire. It does kink if you squeezed it, but if you just sort of use it as a general stringing material, it's absolutely fine. So yeah, cheating away, got that design now onto there. So this is really nice to create this into a finished bracelet with a clasp. And of course, this is also a perfect technique for a necklace as well. So this, if I get people into the shop that I'm helping, or in our group here on our Facebook group, we would sort of guide them in these different techniques that you could do to create your finished pieces. And often tiger tail will be my go-to stringer material. So it'll be oh, need to finish in the same pattern that I've done. So I hadn't put, because this one we put our clasp there, so I want to finish on the same design. So I would either do, I know it's not bracelet size quite, but you get the idea. So I would either do another set of or two of them, or I would have started with a different bead. But that was one option. So yeah, tiger tail tends to be one of my very much my go-to clasps here, go-to stringing materials for bracelets and necklaces as well. So I wanted to show you a wire guardian. So just to show you, wire guardians are used to, they do what they say in the tin, they protect your wire. They're almost a little horseshoe type shape here. So you string your wire over them and it would protect your wire from rubbing on your fastening. So some people use them for practical reasons, but they also look quite decorative as well. So they give a nice professional finish onto your jewelry there. So, but they're also really functional if they work not just for tiger tail, but other stringing materials, the stringing materials that might wear over time, like we often get pearl bracelets in repairs for bracelets, and they will have had a wire guardian perhaps put on them to save it. But they do start in the same way. So they do start by having a crimp bead popped on, and then we would put the wire guardian onto there. So what happens with the wire guardian? Let me see, and let me just see if I can get the focus on here and show you this in a bit more detail. Bear with me. Okay, so tiny little thing. I know it's a bit tricky to see, but it's a horseshoe shape with two little holes. Hopefully you could just see them there when I had it at that angle. So you thread through one side, go round the horseshoe and down through the other side. Focus back on the mat. Sorry, bear with me. Okay, all right, so here's how they work. We go, so we've put our crimp bead on and we're going to go through one side of our wire guardian. That goes over the top, so it follows the horseshoe shape there. And it goes down the opposite side. There's tiny little tubular canals, I guess, that it goes around. So if you look at the shape the wire's in, that's mimicking what the wire guardian is. So this is a sizing issue as well. So if I wanted it to be right down here, this is the point I would sort of pull that down and through there. Sorry about that. Oh, we're popular today. Oh, get my mat right again. Okay. So we would go and we would sort of shuffle that if we wanted to get that down. They're keen to speak to me, aren't they? So like so, and bring that down. Okay, and that would shape that to where you wanted it. I'm going to do it a bit away from the beads so you can see what you need to do. So what we would then do is we would go through the little crimp bead there. Now, if you wanted to add a clasp or something that doesn't have an opening, this is the stage you would add that. So before you push it through that crimp bead, we would pop that on there. And that would go over there. I'm assuming it's going to fit. This is an example of it being a bit tight. Yeah, I did get it on, but it was a little tight. So at that stage, if you wanted to put a clasp on, I appreciate I've got two clasps on this piece, you would put your loop. I just wanted to reflect. I'm so sorry. Somebody I appreciate is trying to get hold of me, but yeah, I need to not while I'm live. Right, okie dokie. So that's that, and then I would pop my tiger tail through, keeping that there, and pop my tiger tail back through there. So it goes back down through the crimp. Now I've got far more than I need here, so I could have cut some off, but down through there. Okay, I'm going to leave that all really loose so you can see what it's doing. So I've gone through a crimp, through the wire guardian, back down through the crimp, and then that crimp could be pushed up to near the wire guardian if you wanted to. And look at that fabulous way of fastening those. So that is metal on metal then, which isn't metal on wire. So not that this, to be honest, snaps that often, but it's just another layer of protection. So it's giving you a really nice professional finish. Now crimp beads, again, if you remember, I say that I crush them. This one I would probably, if I wanted to just leave it like that, want to try and get that fairly in the middle so it gave a neat fastening there. That would be that one. And then the other thing that I would want to do perhaps is add a crimp cover over. So for those of you that are bead box members, I noticed this one had something stuck in it. I'm hoping it's going to come out. And for those of you that are bead box members, we've used crimp beads for other things in the past. This has got a whole load of it's got a load of jump rings and bead caps stuck in it. Let's get those out. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to pop this over the crimp bead. Okay, so picking that up with my pliers, and you take that over the crimp bead, and what you do is it's a C shape, this one, the little crimp cover is, and it just sort of, it doesn't flatten over the crimp bead. Not a crimp bead we totally squash, we really do squeeze it. This crimp cover, we manipulate it back into a circle, so we're turning it from a kind of C shape cover, just making sure it's closed all the way around. It could do with a bit of manipulation this side, so I'm just going to manipulate it hopefully more into a round, and just closed. It was probably quite small for the size of crimp that I had there, but it's worked. So that was a 3mm crimp cover onto a 2mm crimp bead, just so you've got an idea. So you definitely want to go one size bigger on the cover, but we do them in 4s and 5s as well. So 4's a slightly more comfortable one, but 3 has fitted there and has done the job. Now, you wouldn't normally seal this wire, so I was doing that just so you could really focus on that fastening there. All of this, what would have happened, so hopefully I'm safe now, as long as I crimp bead tight enough. I'm just going to nip that bit off, and we're just going to have to imagine that I've got this really tight to it, but this is what it would look like if I push that all up there. So that is how your fastening would then look. So a really nice professional finish on your tiger tail bracelets there. Your beads up to it, you hide the extra bit of tiger tail inside there, or trim it off tighter in so it's inside the crimp cover. It's an extra little finding to grab. It's not an essential one, but it is an extra little finding to grab if need be. Well, hopefully that is everything covered to show you 2 different styles of fastening. So bracelet and in a tiger tail fastening, and bracelet in a elasticated bracelet as well. So thank you ever so much for watching Riverside Beads again. Do pop by to our website, riversidebeads.co.uk. And if you're watching back on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to us as well. We do our weekly tutorials that I'll try and focus on different techniques that we find are quite useful in the shop, different questions that we get from beginners through to some of the kits and other projects that we do as well. Thanks very much, everybody.